Hi everybody, welcome back to Couch Crew Reviews.
It's been a long time since we've done a review. We probably look a bit different. I think we all have different hairstyles. It's good to be back. And for this film review today, we are going to review John Carpenter's 1982 film, The Thing. The Thing is pretty much a classic horror film of the early 80s. And it gained a pretty big cult following. Wasn't a huge success in theaters. For me, it was a bit of a risk asking the kids to review this film. It's a pretty classic staple horror film, and since it's from the '80s, definitely has some colorful language and for this movie, some interesting effects that are probably precursors to more modern day film going. It's one of my favorite films in terms of from an experiential standpoint. From being a kid, saw this movie when I was probably a little too young, and it was one of those movies that just stuck with me, and it became a film that was resonant for me moving forward. Probably propelled me into an interest in horror films into my middle school and teenage years, though I have largely outgrown the horror genre at this point in my life. So it was fun to get to see the kids' reactions to John Carpenter's The Thing. And just want to make a few reminders before we get into our review. For each review, we tend to have a few staples that we recommend for film viewers and film reviewers. One, to keep an open mind. Two,
watch from beginning to end.
Three, keep an open mind. Again, it's really important to maybe set aside all prior notions in terms of a director, in terms of the actors, in terms of the genre. In this case, particularly because it's a horror film from the 80s, you kind of have to give or take a little bit. One, on effects. Two, on storytelling and some of the set factor or some of the production factor. Fourth rule is put previous ratings in perspective. So The Thing has an interesting kind of paradoxical rating on IMDb. The Metascore review is a 57 out of 100, and there's a couple reviews, critic reviews, that are off the charts, and there are some that are really low. And I think those are pretty understandable. But the Rater review is an 8.1 out of 10, so it scores very high. It's a particularly popular film culturally, pop culturally, from a cult standpoint, and in this case on IMDb. And then for this movie specifically, I think that there's a few things as you go into viewing that you have to really consider. And for us, I wanted to focus today on dissecting it a bit specifically as a horror film. This was Luke's first true horror film, probably yours too, Colette. Though both of them, I've seen films with other content that's either monstrous or gory. Luke has already seen Predator. They both are very well versed in Stranger Things. And just watching recently, we rewatched Stranger Things season 3, and there's definitely some parallels or things that you could tell were inspired in season 3 of Stranger Things by John Carpenter's The Thing. Though the Duffer Brothers are able to have a much different play on effects. And probably a different atmosphere because of the capacities for modern day filmmaking. As far as setting up this film, in terms of keeping an open mind, it is a horror film. Takes place in Antarctica on a station or a base that's not really clearly defined. All the characters and main participants are in isolation, and so going into that type of genre of film, it can be pretty easy to roll your eyes at certain effects or certain tropes. There's a lot of smoking, a lot of drinking, a lot of cussing. Kind of falls into certain early '80s movies pitfalls. But from a pacing standpoint, I think closing all the main characters in kind of gives it a bit of a horror, more of a claustrophobic horror type feel, where all the characters are kind of landlocked in a specific location. The basic premise of the film is that there is an alien being and an alien spaceship that is found on Antarctica by a different group of people at a different station. In isolation, this alien figure or this alien creature starts to attack, for lack of a better word, though it attacks in a pretty non-traditional way, or maybe not in an expected way. As far as watching the film from beginning to end, which I feel is imperative for all film viewing experiences, opening credit scenes shows an alien spaceship crashing on Earth, or at least sailing toward Earth. And then the opening scene is largely of a chopper coming over a ridge, chasing a dog. And then the action just really goes from there. It's a very odd opening shot. You know, these guys in a helicopter are shooting at this dog, and I think Luke and Clutter. You know, we're all dog lovers, and you're wondering, hey, what are we attacking a dog for? And so it's a curious opening shot, and then some other action occurs from there, and then really the plot gets set in motion from there. The film stars Kurt Russell. It was actually probably one of those roles for him that ultimately it became a pretty signature role, a very popular role. A good friend of mine and I reference his character R.J. McCready pretty often in our own little private jokes. And then the director again is John Carpenter, who directed some of my favorite films. One being The Thing, another one being Escape from New York, and then the classic of all classic horror films, 1978 film Halloween. Okay, as far as the review, I wanted to be a little bit more open with this review. So, to you two, was this movie all that scary?
No.
And why would you say that?
Because like there weren't those scenes like in Stranger Things where it gets really quiet, and all of a sudden like some creature pops out and then makes this loud annoying noise and makes you jump up a little bit.
Well, I think like scary, like everyone has different definitions of scary. Like, I mean, I don't think it was very. I mean, it was. You could tell it was definitely trying to be like a horror movie, and it was like a horror movie, but I don't think it was scary. To me, at least, because like scary for me is like more like psychological horror. This is just kind of like a thing that can take over your body.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just. It was just like
jump scares and gore.
Yeah.
And so that kind of gets us into the definition of this movie as a horror film. How do we pick that apart? You know, a lot of jump scares. It's definitely set up almost like the way the alien goes about attacking all members on the base. You don't quite know who is going to be the next person. That is either the person who's been attacked by the alien or the person who is revealing itself as the alien. And so it almost has like a murder mystery feel to it. Maybe a couple months back, we watched the movie Clue, and it's funny. You know, it's a funny caper mystery film, and The Thing actually kind of falls into that category almost. There's even little different scenes. A lot of scenes end with a fade to black, and so it has the almost like this. It's almost set up from a directorial aspect, like a cut scene or a stage. Scene, so you know you're getting a sense of mystery based on what's to come. What would you guys say? Is this film appropriate for a 12-year-old? I mean, it's rated R. It's gory. It has splattergasm, early '80s effects. There's cussing, and that's about it. And it's pretty starkly violent. But would you say is 12 too young for this?
No. I mean, like anyone probably like a 10-year-old might get like freaked out, but like it's not like horribly scary, because like if you watch Stranger Things, then you're like all worried for the first like few nights. You're all like, oh, Demogorgon, he's scary, but like this, you're just like, okay.
I'm like, well, I think because we watched Stranger Things first, I think if we had watched this first, this would have been worse. But because Stranger Things has similar aspects, it's just kind of like used to it.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, I think it's fine. Like maybe like 12 and up, 11 and up.
Yeah. We're a pretty relatively liberal family regarding books and film content. Mrs. Urban is a little bit more conservative with what she's okay with the kids watching, but I did feel like this was definitely a bit of a risk film, because you're venturing into kind of true stark horror. Though, again, we recently watched this Stranger Things season 3, and yeah, I'd kind of forgotten, even though I'd seen that series that season a couple times now. This was my third viewing of that season, and it was pretty violent. It's pretty gory, pretty intense, a lot of swearing, and I was like, all right, well, and so from a relativity standpoint, I think the thing kind of comes across pretty palatable in that regard. What did you guys think about the effects? Are they ridiculous or like?
They're for an eighties movie. It's like not actually that bad, but you can tell it's not real.
Yeah, they're not terrible. I mean, they're not like as bad as Explorers. When did Explorers come out? I think like 3 years before.
No, Explorers came out after.
Okay. Well, yeah.
3 years after.
Yeah, that's what I tried to say.
But Explorers tried to use a lot of CGI. Explorers is the first film, our pilot episode of Couch Crew Reviews. We reviewed the 1985, I believe, film Explorers, and Industrial Light and Magic did a lot of the CGI for that film, and so they were using, some of the sets you could tell were real and were hand constructed, but there was a lot of pretty hokey computer generated effects, whereas the thing is. I even read in a trivia bit on IMDb that the thing, they had a couple scenes that John Carpenter was attempting to use some type of stop animation or computer animation, and he felt it looked too artificial. So the entire film is made with just like, all the effects, the splattergasm effects are made with real liquids, animal intestines and guts, and so it does have a very splattery feel to it. So it's very tangible and real looking, but at sometimes it's almost so real looking, or it's a bit over the top in that regard. What about the story? Did you guys? I mean, did you feel like the plot or the like action or the direction of the movie was pretty good? What were your thoughts on it as just a story?
It was good. It was a little confusing.
Yeah.
I think because it's a lot of action and they don't like talk, but like it's not like it's a lot of like yelling at each other and like pushing people around. So like if you like scenes that are quiet are easier to understand because like when they're running around and there's snow and gunshots, you're just like, okay, I don't know what's going on. I mean, like it still makes sense.
Like this, so some scenes like. At one point, I actually didn't know like who was who because they don't really say like this is blah 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 and this is blah blah blah. So they were saying like stuff about this one person and I didn't know who it was, so I kept like asking who it was, and then
I think in that regard, it's like a murder mystery movie where you're trying to keep up with which character is which, and in the film dialogue, they're just throwing names around, and it can be tricky to keep up. Even though some of the characters in the movie are pretty memorable in their own quirky way. Go ahead.
And Mom said that it was this one guy, and then I asked that she like pointed to the one guy, and I was like, so that guy's infected, and then she said, yeah. Well, yeah, and then like 3 minutes later, the same guy, it was the same actor. I was like, that guy's infected, right? And she's like, no, he's not. The other guy was. And it was really confusing.
Without revealing the ending or spoiling the ending, what did you think of the ending? Because the ending is a bit unconventional.
Well, you can tell that they were trying to be like the ooh, you don't know what happens kind of vibe. Were you okay with that, or was it kind of meh? I don't know. I can't say too much.
Okay.
The ending
spoil it, even though it's 40 years old.
The ending was kind of like, it wasn't like very meh, but it was kind of like meh, because like the big I don't want to spoil one, but the big like boss came,
right,
and then like a minute after that happened, the movie was over.
Yeah.
And like usually like the final boss comes, and then like they're there for a while or something, and then the rescue team comes. That like shows them in the future after they're like back to normal living. But this one just like stopped. Overall rating.
Well, I'll go first on this since this is a favorite film of mine and one I was, kind of eager to have the kids see, even though it's ridiculous. I rate The Thing very high for a variety of reasons. I think it's a compact story. It's pretty unique, even though it's a remake. It's not only a remake of a film, an early '50s film. That film was based on a short story of an alien that crashes to Earth and has certain impacts on the human race. But I just feel like the premise, at least when I was younger, the premise was very original. I liked as a kid the splattergasm special effects. It's fun to watch a now renowned actor, or at least a now popular actor, Kurt Russell, in a younger role. As a product of the '70s and '80s, I like that harder edge comedy or those harder edge characters. Harder edge stories that have a little bit of an intensity to them. It's hokey and schlocky in certain parts. It's a pretty long film too. It's almost 2 hours. I really like, even when I was younger, I liked the ambiguity of the ending. I just thought it was like a reminder of like, hey, yeah, if you're in a horror film or if you're in a horror setting, things are going to be pretty intense and things might not always go your way. So, on that end, because it's I think an iconic '80s horror film, I would rate The Thing an 8.5 out of 10.
Roger?
Sure.
Okay, you go. Look, I don't know.
I would rate The Thing a 7.3 out of 10. Mostly because it was a good movie. It was, yeah. And mostly why it was lower, not like low, is because just like the effects mostly and partially confusing at some point.
I would rate The Thing as like a 7. I think maybe just because of the effects and it's like this, it's very not rushed, but like there's a lot of things happening. It's a little bit hard to understand, but if you pay attention, like you have to be paying attention, and you can't have people asking questions and mom talking over the film half the time to actually like understand what's going on. But yeah, I mean it was good. It just wasn't the best.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that puts the total overall rating of The Thing at 7.6 for this Couch Crew review.
We haven't decided on what film we will review next.
Mystery.
So that will be a mystery until next time. Until next time, thanks for watching our Couch Crew review of John Carpenter's The Thing. And we'll see you soon.
Thanks for watching.